On December 29th, a Russian missile briefly entered Ukrainian airspace through Poland, launching attacks on several Ukrainian cities and resulting in the loss of at least 30 lives. Sadly, this wasn't the first time such actions occurred, and understandably, panic spread. The White House reported that President Joe Biden was closely watching the situation in Poland, and the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan expressed America's support for Poland. Amid this chaos, Poland showed smart leadership, setting itself apart from other big European countries like Germany and France, who seemed to bow down to Putin's influence. Notably, Poland's newly elected Prime Minister Donald Tusk emerged as a thoughtful leader. After winning with a coalition of pro-EU and pro-Ukraine parties, Tusk ousted the country's far-right government after 8 years. He promised strong support for Ukraine in its fight against Russia. In today's video, we'll explore Poland's role as a European leader against Russia and consider what the future holds under the guidance of the new Prime Minister. As the war unfolded, expectations were high that Germany, France, and the EU would stand strong against Putin's might, acting as a bulwark. However, to everyone's surprise, Putin managed to manipulate these European giants, partly due to nuclear threats and partly due to energy politics. Russia being a major natural gas exporter and Europe reluctant to endure harsh winters, Macron and Scholz found themselves in a tough spot. Poking Putin wasn't a wise move. Amid this leadership vacuum, Poland seized the opportunity. Donald Tusk, the newly elected prime minister, made bold promises. He pledged to garner full Western support for Ukraine in its struggle against Russia, aiming to overcome hurdles with the European Union. Tusk asserted that Poland would reclaim a leadership role in Europe and play a robust part in NATO. Additionally, he vowed to resolve a month-long blockade at the Ukraine border by Polish truckers, demanding the reintroduction of entry permits for their Ukrainian counterparts. You see, Polish hauliers are upset about losing business to Ukrainian truckers who enjoy permit-free access to EU territory due to the ongoing war. The Polish hauliers demand the reinstatement of permits for Ukrainian truckers, a request Kiev and the European Commission firmly oppose. These protests have caused economic losses for Ukraine and disrupted crucial supplies for volunteer military aid. However, it appears that Ukraine and Poland are actively addressing these problematic issues. So in terms of leadership, Poland seems to be emerging victorious, taking center stage in European politics. If you look at the internal dynamics of Poland, it appears that the country is all set to take the new role, and PM Tusk's manifesto bears testament to that. For instance, in the previous month, he addressed the parliament, affirming Poland's commitment as a loyal ally to the United States and a dedicated member of NATO. He expressed a clear intent to repair Warsaw's relations with Brussels, ending years of disputes covering issues from judicial independence to LGBT rights. On top of that, Poland secured approval to receive $5.5 billion in advance payments from an EU program, encouraging a shift away from Russian fossil fuels. However, the remaining $64 billion allocated for green transition and COVID-19 recovery remains frozen until Warsaw reverses a judicial overhaul by the Law and Justice Party. Critics argue that this overhaul undermines the independence of the courts. Despite his pro-EU stance, Tusk, also the former prime minister from 2007 to 2014, asserted his opposition to any changes in EU treaties that might disadvantage Poland. He also pledged that his government would prioritize defense and honor previously signed arms contracts. Moreover, the conflict in Ukraine has given Poland more influence in shaping its foreign policy, leaning towards a stronger focus on Europe within its foreign policy approach. Opposition leaders have consistently talked about fixing Poland's relations with the European Union, particularly addressing tensions around sovereignty and certain domestic policies. Mr. Tusk's quick visit to Brussels after the election reassured officials of his intent to ease these tensions. Tusk envisions Poland taking a leadership role in the EU, given its significance. As the former president of the European Council, he brings extensive experience and influence on EU matters to his role as prime minister, potentially positioning Poland as a significant player at the EU level once again. Tusk places a high priority on accessing funds withheld by the European Commission for rule of law reasons, not only to support Poland's strained public finances, but also to secure approval for an initial tranche of over 5 billion euros. The next government inherits an economy that has consistently outpaced other EU member states in recent decades. Expect a heightened focus on EU-level solutions, potentially involving Poland's endorsement of contentious measures like the new Pact on Migration and Asylum and support for the common foreign and security policy. The shift isn't solely a response to political developments in the United States, but also aligns with the center of Europe's eastward movement, as noted by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in an August 2022 speech in Prague. The chatter around Polexit is expected to fade as the increased emphasis on EU priorities diminishes the spotlight on Washington. Discussing the economy further, Poland is expected to surpass Britain in wealth by the year 2030. This projection comes against the backdrop of challenges faced by major European economies due to the war in Ukraine, the post-pandemic world, and Brexit. Notably, Germany's economic performance in 2023 was the worst among developed economies. However, Poland has shown resilience and positive growth. Wrocław, now the third largest and second wealthiest Polish city, is experiencing a visible economic boom. As the capital of Lower Silesia, its strategic location near lucrative markets such as Germany and the Czech Republic has positioned it as one of Europe's leading high-tech hubs. Surpassing the pre-war prosperity of Breslau, the city's German predecessor, Wrocław has undergone 3 decades of steady growth, significantly reducing economic disparities. Adjusted for purchasing parity, Poland's GDP per capita is currently 28,200 sterling, compared to 35,000 sterling in the UK, 34,200 in France, and 39,800 sterling in Germany. If the current growth trajectory continues, Poland is expected to overtake the UK in wealth by 2030. Since the millennium, Poland's real GDP per capita has more than doubled, outpacing the growth rates of Britain, France, and Germany. In light of the challenges faced by other European states, Poland is emerging as a winner, taking advantage of its positive economic momentum. The reality is that living standards in cities like Warsaw or Wrocław are already comparable to those in Berlin, Paris, and London. Furthermore, the growing significance of the country is evident in its military expansion. Warsaw's strategy involves doubling the size of its army to 300,000 soldiers, all equipped with state-of-the-art Western technology. Notably, Poland is investing in around $10 billion in acquiring the highly effective US-made HIMARS artillery system, showcased on the Ukrainian battlefield. This exemplifies the nation's substantial investment initiatives. In addition to this, Poland is acquiring a fleet of F-35 Lightning II aircraft and 116 Abrams tanks, replacing the outdated Soviet-era MiG fighters and T-72 tanks, which are being supplied to Ukraine. The procurement of such advanced military equipment comes at a considerable cost. In 2023, Poland has increased its defense spending to 4% of GDP, up from 2.5% in 2022. Consequently, Warsaw boasts one of the largest war chests in NATO, with plans to sustain or potentially enhance these levels in the coming years. This implies that Poland is on track to possess the most formidable land-fighting capabilities among all European NATO members. Even France, with approximately 200,000 frontline troops, might soon find itself outnumbered by the expanding military might of Poland. So if we see the future trajectory, the new PM of Poland might continue the positives for Poland amid the war in Ukraine. As Warsaw strengthens its connections with Europe and Germany, Washington will navigate Brussels and Berlin's growing influence on Poland's foreign policy and defense priorities. Nonetheless, the US-Polish relationship will remain strong, with around 10,000 American troops and vital defense systems rotating through Poland. This ensures robust security, strong commercial ties, and enduring person-to-person connections. Anticipate the new government to scrutinize defense contracts, particularly those lacking binding agreements. There might be a revaluation of nuclear power cooperation, which doesn't enthuse Berlin and could be subject to revision by Paris for the benefit of its civilian nuclear industry. Warsaw might adjust or cancel certain deals, potentially shifting to EU suppliers or dividing contracts between US and European firms, a strategy employed by Mr. Tusk during his previous term. While some worry the new government may revisit policies associated with the Law and Justice Party, there could also be synergies and advantages for Atlanticist and NATO objectives, with Poland playing a more active role at the EU's forefront. So there you have it, Poland's successful run during the war crisis in Europe. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments and watch our previous video about how Poland is winning the war in Ukraine.